Ahem. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the Thousand-Year Door. An awfully long time ago, Nintendo released the second game in the Paper Mario series on the GameCube. This game was beloved and could stand the test of time. With an amazing story, well-written characters, and an excellent battle system, all was well in the burgeoning fanbase of Paper Mario. And even after a third entry which deviated from its predecessors, many fans still held the series close to their hearts. But soon, a darkness rose on the 3DS. After having waited 8 years for another traditional entry in the series, Nintendo gave fans a slap in the face, a bland game that deviated once again from what made Paper Mario so great all those years ago. Hopeful that Nintendo would finally listen to fans' requests to bring the series back to its roots, they patiently and anxiously waited another 4 years. But when, in 2016, the day finally came, after having waited 12 years for another good Paper Mario game, Nintendo announced a sequel to Sticker Star. Back in 2016, the only exposure I had to the Paper Mario series was having played about half of Super Paper Mario. I wasn't fully aware of the plight of Paper Mario fans or the general consensus of the games in the series, so when Color Splash was announced in a Nintendo Direct, I was kinda surprised by the reaction to it. To me, the game looked pretty good, but most of the reactions I saw were very negative. Leading up to the game's release, I'd learned more about what fans thought of the series. But despite having more context, I still didn't think the hate toward Color Splash was warranted. It still looked quite good. When the game came out, I was cautiously optimistic. Maybe the game was bad like everyone was saying, but maybe it was good. Something I've learned from my years of playing games is, if a game looks interesting to you pre-release, you're most likely going to enjoy it. If it doesn't look interesting, you're most likely not going to enjoy it. Seldom do games surprise me with their quality, and expectations are everything. If people are constantly praising a game, saying that it's one of the best ever made, usually it lets me down, even if it is a good game. On the flip side, however, if people are constantly saying a game is bad, I usually have a better opinion of it because it surpasses my expectations. My point is, people need to stop using hyperbole on the internet. In regards to Color Splash, it tops my ranking of the Paper Mario games. Before we get to the battle system, let's talk about some other parts of the game that I like. First of all, I think this graphical style is the best in the series. This game and Origami King do it very well. I prefer the white outline. I think it makes the characters feel like they fit in more naturally to their papery environment. The animations in Thousand-Year Door kind of remind me of cheap YouTube animations. The Color Splash style looks more refined and deliberate. I also really like the comedic writing in Color Splash. TTYD has a better story, but I like this type of humor in my games, and Color Splash has more of it. The partners in Thousand-Year Door are very good, but the focus is split among each of them. Because Huey is the only partner in Color Splash, I think his personality is more refined and you're more likely to feel a stronger connection with him. And I would say that he has the best writing of any individual character in the series. As for the character designs, TTYD has what and huh? People often praise this game for having unique characters, but I have no idea what these are even supposed to be. I actually prefer to have regular Mario enemies in my Mario games. Some of these NPCs are actually interesting, like this Shy Guy. And I actually prefer the way Toads are handled here too. You'll see some people saying how they wish Toads could be more unique, but I think them being all the same is part of the appeal. Plus, outside of Toadette and Toadsworth, none of the mainline games have unique Toads either. It's what makes Toads Toads. But don't try to explain that on Twitter because TTYD fans can't read. Actually, that explains a lot. But to circle back to the Toads, my ideal scenario would be that they're all anatomically the same, but the ones that matter have different names, outfits, and personalities. The regular NPC ones can all be clones with different colored spots though. Alright, now onto the general gameplay. The partner abilities are cool, but some of them are copied from Paper Mario 64. The paper gimmicks are fun, of course. Most of the abilities that I like make using traversal fun. I like Color Splash's abilities too. Cutout makes you view the world in unique ways, Unfurl is neat and has good music, but the star of the show is the Paint Hammer. It does a lot of heavy lifting. You'll be interacting with a lot more stuff in general than TTYD, since you'll want to smack stuff to get paint and fill in the colorless spots. Both games have fun locations, but Color Splash has a greater variety, and the levels are more in-depth, literally. TTYD levels are usually just going left and right. Plus, Color Splash's world map makes getting from A to B way less of a chore. There's a lot more stuff I like about Color Splash that I can talk about, but let's move on to the battle system. I'm not going to do an overview of TTYD's battle system because I assume that most of you are familiar with it already. That's in contrast to Color Splash, which is statistically less likely for you guys to have played. Let's go over the basics. During a battle, you select the card to use, paint it, and then play out the attack. And in this game, all moves are cards. To compare it to TTYD, this includes jump attacks, hammer attacks, items such as fire flowers and mushrooms, and special attacks, which in this game are called things. They're called things because they're real objects in contrast to everything else, which is made out of paper. And instead of having a partner to fight alongside you, you'll gain the ability to play up to 4 cards per turn as you continue throughout the game. And some cards have multiple uses per card. There's also enemy cards that you can use to spawn in an enemy that'll help you out. You might be able to see where I'm getting at with this. Essentially, every aspect of TTYD's battle system is present in Color Splash. It's just implemented a little differently. In place of badges that let you use a special version of the jump or hammer attacks, each of those is now its own card. So Iron Jump lets you jump on spiky enemies, and KO Hammer lets you smack an enemy into the ones behind it, to give you a couple examples. And while you can choose to omit painting your cards, not doing so effectively makes them worthless. So paint is basically the equivalent to FP alongside also being used in the overworld. Action commands are also here in this game, though they're now simplified to being just a button press for all of them, or you can use the touchscreen if you're weird. You can block and do multiple times the damage if you keep pressing A to jump depending on the card. Normal hammer attacks now have an area of effect instead of just striking one enemy too, and of course you'll need to use different cards depending on the enemy. Also worth noting that you'll need to have a different strategy than TTYD when battling. Because you pick your cards and then attack, you'll also need to get the order of the cards correct, otherwise you might be using the wrong card on the wrong enemy. Something you might not be aware of is that there are environmental hazards in battles. I actually think it's implemented better in this game than TTYD because it's actually part of the environment outside of the battle too. For example, if you jump on a Koopa shell, it'll bounce back and hit you if there's a wall behind it. The only thing that sucks is that these instances are pretty uncommon. Something else that can happen during a battle is Kamek. Occasionally he'll swoop in right as the battle starts and mess with your cards. This includes stuff like flipping them around so you can't see them, taking them all away except for a few of them and stuff like that. Another thing people seem to forget about is the battle spin. This basically lets you buy another card whenever you want, for the most part, and you can pay more coins to have an easier chance of getting something specific. But one of the main complaints that people have about this battle system is that there's no incentive, even though that's literally not true. You get paint, coins, and cards, sometimes a new one you haven't gotten before. And that's not to mention Hammer Scrap, which is essentially XP to level up your paint capacity. And speaking of leveling up, it does exist in this game, like all the other things I mentioned, or at least the effects of it are. I already explained the FP replacement, so let's talk about BP. As I said earlier, the badge abilities have largely been replaced by cards, but like how TTYD scatters badges throughout the game, so too are these cards that replace the badges, so it's not like you have access to everything all at once. And in regards to HP and damage dealt, you actually just get an increase as you progress throughout the game. So when you defeat a boss and get the big paint star, you also get more health and do more damage. Okay, now something that annoyed me was that I've seen multiple videos where people are explaining the battle system, and they show a video of them with their gamepad scrolling around their cards pretending like it's a chore to play.
Oh, God. Oh, why is it so slow? Why is it so ass?
When in actuality, battles look like this. And just an FYI here, you can change the controls to advanced touch controls, which saves you a step, or button controls. So as I've stated before, basically everything about the battle system of TTYD is intact here. It's just a little different, but it doesn't really matter. If at the end of the day you still don't think it's fun to play, that's fair. That's totally fine, but I'm just not a fan of when people unfairly mischaracterize this game, as it is very good. If you haven't tried it, I do recommend it. And if you have tried it and didn't like it, I'd say give it another shot. Maybe with this stuff in mind, you'll be able to enjoy it a little bit more. That's all I got. If you like this video, you know what to do. If you think Color Splash should be renamed Color Trash, leave a dislike. Anyway, see you guys later. Peace.